Hello everyone, welcome to my latest podcast. I am podcasting to you from the lovely Durham, England, not Durham, North Carolina. It is so lovely here. It's starting to rain today. It's been sunny for the last 4 days, but oh my god, this place is so beautiful. I think I'll move here. But this week's podcast, I want to talk about women traveling alone. This is going to be a subject of mine for the next couple of months as I'll be traveling around the world. I started in Johnson City, Tennessee, where I've been shooting a lot of my footage for my film project. And I traveled over here to England, starting in Brighton, which is the very bottom, and then working my way up to Durham, and I'll be going to Newcastle tomorrow, which is just 30 minutes north of here, another large city. I think it's the third largest city behind London and Manchester. But Durham is just beautiful. It's hilly, it's green, gardens everywhere. The cathedral you can see in the background, which is also the Durham University. But it's interesting traveling alone. I eat alone in restaurants. I'm staying at a B&B, which is quite lovely. It's called Cathedral View Terrace, and it's in Durham on Giles Gate Street, if you guys want to stay here. It's fantastic. This is the view from the back of the terrace. And, it's interesting because there's only couples that stay here. There's only couples that eat in the restaurants. And I know today it's pretty modern for women to travel around by themselves, but it's still very much of an issue in terms of making sure that prepping and logistics are done, that your safety and where you go, how you conduct yourself in certain cultures. In September, I'll be going to Turkey, to Istanbul, which will be my very first sort of quasi-Middle Eastern Muslim country. It's still very modern, very European, but it's still, you travel outside of Istanbul, and it is very traditional in the culture, even though Istanbul is very modern. But that will be very new for me. It'll be furthest east I've ever traveled. And then I'll be going back to the States and traveling across country from Tennessee to Los Angeles, down to New Orleans, and everywhere in between with my sister. And again, women traveling alone is not a, sort of new notion or anything, but it's still very much a rite of passage, I think, to make your own plans and just step on a train and just go somewhere, not knowing anything about the place other than your research that you've done, and asking people for information and directions and where the best food places are or the best neighborhoods, things like that. Like, for example, if you're looking for a place to stay in a hotel or a place to live. So it's very empowering, and even though in my film we talk a lot about communities online and talking with people on Facebook and MySpace and Skype and things like that, there is no substitution for being in the real place and dealing with real people, and it's just a visceral, emotional experience that can't be described. I love being online and being connected and being able to find out information around the world 24/7, but it's also quite exhilarating to get out and to travel. So this week's question and podcast is, tell me a little bit about your travels, especially women who have traveled alone. Tell me about your experiences, good or bad. I want to know if you feel extra pressure with being a female and traveling alone, if you've got to take extra precautions that a man necessarily wouldn't. If you're a feminist like me and you feel empowered and equality, how does that exchange when you go into a culture that maybe is a little bit more paternal? Certainly in all the cities that I've been to are very modern. Brighton is certainly very left and very evolved, I guess, if you want to say. London, of course. But out in the smaller towns, the smaller villages that you go to, it's still like very paternal, and sometimes it seems like I've been thrown back 100 years. So I'm getting ready to get poured on. So that's the question for this week. Thanks so much, and I will see you guys soon across the pond.